This week in the Gilmore world is kind of sad, and I don't actually know if you know about this.
Like, I'm not at all up to date on any of
You
the
should be.
the
You
stuff.
run a Gilmore Girls podcast, but I will tell you. So, what's happened this week is the co inventor of Pop Tarts, William Post, passed away at the age of 96.
He was one of our best.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was. He was.
Gone
So,
too soon.
obviously, you know why that would be relevant to Gilmore Girls, right? I hope. What do you know?
I know a few things. They don't ever cook.
No, they don't.
Cooking for them is toasting a Pop-Tart,
Yeah, fair.
and Pop-Tarts are referenced a lot.
Yes, they are one of their favorite snacks.
Yes.
And I was trying to figure out what flavors they've referenced in the show, and the only ones I was able to definitively confirm was strawberry and brown sugar,
I
which
mean
may be why I love brown sugar. I don't know, but it could be.
I mean, you're wrong because that's like the weakest flavor of Pop-Tart. Short of the unfrosted monstrosities.
This leads to my question of what do you think their favorite Pop-Tart flavor is, and then what is your favorite Pop-Tart flavor?
Okay. I will give you an answer.
Okay.
I think that Rory is s'more
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel it.
and Lorelai is an eclectic one.
It's like one of those niche
I mean, wild berry is the easy answer. The wild berry is the
Well, all
outer-
right. All right.
It's top tier.
I think that my task for all Gilmore fans out there this week is to go out there and find those limited edition Pop Tarts. You know, the ones that are just like these crazy
The
flavors.
Spider-Man ones that don't exist anymore.
Yeah, yes. But all of the crazy flavors that are out there, and tell us what the craziest one you find is. I think that is the mission for Gilmore Girls fans everywhere.
It's a limited edition Spider-Man from the 2000 release. That's
Nobody knows what you're referencing, which is, I mean, very, very apropos for this show. But go out there, do that, and then tag us when you pick up your Pop Tarts. Share it on social media. We want to see what Pop Tarts you get, and we will do that too. But
I'm Tyler.
I'm Shay, and this is Oi with the Pot Already. This is our second episode for the recap of Kiss and Tell, the infamous Rory and Dean's first kiss episode.
So we are picking up after Lorelai has found out,
Yes.
and she is stewing in her own thoughts. She's allowing it to fester and build and just.
Yeah, she found out in the worst way possible by
Yeah.
Mrs. Kim, and we went into all the reasons why that is not the way Lorelai wanted to find out, and we open up this section with Lane and Rory discussing the situation.
Yeah, and Lorelai is sitting in Luke's, looking at them, just
stewing.
she can't handle it. It's that moment of just all of the worst thoughts are going through your head, going, what does this mean? Is there other things that not? It's just she's freaking out, man.
She is
freaking out, man. Before we get any further, I do want to mention that on a previous episode, your extortion has worked.
Are we talking about because this past week was Valentine's Day?
Yes, and as I correctly predicted, you got a Gilmore Girls gift for Valentine's Day because you, of course, needed it in your life.
You predicted what you purchased. Does that count as a prediction, or
yes,
were you thoroughly influenced?
I was thoroughly influenced because what else was I to do? I had no choice. I was backed into a corner and publicly shamed.
So if you guys don't know, Loungefly came out with some Gilmore Girls stuff. We mentioned it on a previous episode, and I was not convinced that my husband would get me anything, but he did get me the Amazing Luke's Cup. There is a reel somewhere out there of this. There is still a Gilmore Girls backpack from Loungefly that I don't have, but you know, I'll count my blessings. And from this episode, I feel there needs to be some merch out there of like cornstarch. I looked a little bit on the Etsy's. There is a print that you can put in your home of cornstarch, and there is a T-shirt that has cornstarch on it. But there's nothing like, I'm feeling like a necklace of sorts or something like that, because like
this cornstarch plushie.
Pillow. Oh yeah, feeling it. So any of those crafters out there, like I feel like This is Valentine's Day. People love this stuff. Like, people would find that
Well,
adorable.
you now have an entire year to get on your game for next year's Valentine's Day.
Oh, so I'm gonna make it. I'm the crafter. I don't know about that. So we should get right into the episode. Rory and Lane are sitting by a table and they are dressed in pilgrim costumes and they are discussing.
Because that's not actually ever disclosed. We don't know. Like, there's some reason that they're sitting there talking about
They're
that.
collecting money for the town's autumn festival from my gathering
Okay, I mean, this is the start of how does this town afford all of the things that they do?
because they all are a community and they all contribute to all of the events together as a town.
No, there's no way.
Now, when we first saw them, you had a comment about the fact that Rory is dressed in a pilgrim outfit when she is very clearly trying to impress a boy.
I very much don't see her wanting to be caught by Dean in that outfit. And there's a total of 7 people that live in this town.
So you
So
think that she would not wear these outfits because she
I
wants to impress a
I
boy?
just know from my teenage years, I went out of my way to avoid any of those awkward things. I didn't succeed at all because I mean, you're a teenager,
Right, of course.
but you're not wearing costumes, you're not doing those extra additionally stupid things.
See, I think this is a show that Rory is not going to change herself for a boy. We know, we see in the rest of the show that
She
she
literally
does this
wanted to
stuff.
drop out of school the day one. Day one.
She wanted yeah, that is true. But she does do this type of town thing. We learn later in there's like the ice cream queen and there's other things that she does for the town. I think they have like a picture of what is it, living art? I forgot the name of it. People are going
They
to
do all
crucify me.
kinds of
But
crazy
they
things.
do a lot of things. So that's very typical for this town. So I think it's Rory just, continuing to do what Rory would do and not
A dance
letting
competition.
yeah, and not letting the fact that Dean might see her affect her, which I mean, more power to you. I mean, for those of us who have done drama in some sort of fashion, we've all had the moment of having to wear some type of costume that is quite embarrassing and knowing that your crush might be in the audience.
No,
It's that moment of
categorically,
like,
categorically. No.
you've never had that moment?
I was not a drama kid.
I
First off,
mean, fair.
I was not in any way involved in any of that stuff.
Well, we've all had that moment. Same thing with dance when I had to wear these like leotards or
You're right. You know what?
jumpsuits
You're
and
right. I forgot about my time dancing. I forgot the pink tutu. Yeah, you're right. My bad, everyone. I apologize.
Okay, mister, I played high school football. Do you think that those outfits were becoming for
Yeah, but I was wearing pads so I could hit people if they said anything.
you? So you're gonna hit your crush? You're just gonna bowl her over? What is this, Betty White, a Super Bowl
No,
commercial?
no,
What are we doing here?
that's Terry Tate, office linebacker.
Okay, so apparently the football outfits, not embarrassing.
Not embarrassing. No.
But the anything else outfits that are not your typical clothing, embarrassing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
Oh,
think I'll stand by that. Yeah.
okay. Well, I think there's going to be some fights on that. But they are sitting there and they're talking about the kiss that has happened. And Lane is very jealous and she's saying how she needs to live her life vicariously through Rory because she doesn't have anything exciting. And Rory points out that you just had a date with Patrick Cho and he drives a Lincoln Continental. He wears a members only jacket and she did get kissed, albeit on the forehead, by Patrick Cho. So I think, first of all, why do you think they mentioned that he drives a Lincoln Continental and wears a members only jacket? Was that supposed to be a pro or a con?
Oh, it's definitely con. I mean, pro for the car, but
Because it's a luxury car, right?
yeah, it's their parents' car. It's not you're not buying a Lincoln Continental as your first car. Like if
Well,
you
we
have a
do
choice.
know that the people that Lane's parents set her up with are generally on like the doctor track. That's the
Well,
typical.
yeah, but you're still not. It's not the teenage dream car. It's no one's ever. Yeah, I want a Lincoln. That's not when you're 16. You want
Mercedes.
a sports car,
Yeah.
a Mustang, a Corvette,
I
a
mean, I wanted a car that was reasonable and good on gas, but
motorcycle. Like as you're a teenage boy, you want the exciting thing to drive.
okay. I don't know that Patrick Cho really had the exciting vibes going on, but
That's
that's the
that is
point.
the point.
That's
That
the
is
point. Got it. And but members only jackets. Now, granted, it's been a long time since I've seen a members only jacket. They're from the 80s. And the ones that I think of are more of like the leather jackets, the zip up ones that say members only on the side. Now, granted, we are resellers, so these are also things we would pick up in a store and resell for sure because they're definitely making a resurgence. But
Yeah.
I don't think of them as uncool. I think of those as
So
pretty, I don't know,
they were and they were. It had a very popular time in the whole
80s.
in the 80s and 90s of the preppy look. Like
Yeah.
that was the way that a preppy kid could be edgy. It was the safe edgy.
Ah, okay. All
It
right.
was
So it wasn't the James Dean leather jacket.
no,
It was the
it's not the Dean leather jacket. It's not the Shawn Hunter leather jacket.
it's okay. So it's the preppy boy's trying to look cool, but he's not cool because he's still a preppy boy.
it's the jacket that you wear on a date that your mother approves of the boy.
Cool. So it's the jacket you would have worn.
Go to hell, first off.
Just wondering. I'm just trying to paint a picture.
It also was tied to the Reagan campaign of
Oh,
just say no. So it was abstinence on drugs and promiscuity and all of that stuff. So it
promiscuity.
yeah,
Uh,
that's
we're
what I
gonna leave
said.
that in there. No, you
I
didn't.
said promiscuity.
You said promiscuity.
Promiscuity.
It's recorded. Fun times. But no, that makes sense. So it's the guy that's trying to look cool but's not cool.
Yeah, it's very much this is very much a boy that your parents set you up on a date with.
Mm.
It's what they think that you want rather than the bad
Which
boy.
fits for
Yeah.
Lane. I will say though, forehead kiss is adorable. So anybody that would like to, turn on
I
a
mean,
girl, that's a way to do it. I don't know why she was so against the forehead kiss because I find that adorable.
well, because you're looking for your first kiss. You don't want a forehead kiss as the first. You want
But
the
I love when a guy does that. That makes me
you're also
melt.
5'1".
Right, so it's easy. It's simple. You have to bend less.
Yeah,
She's also short, I gather.
probably.
So it could just be that he couldn't reach. So as they're talking about this, Lane reveals that she has done a lot of research on Dean. And
Yeah,
this is
it's
surprising given what we've known so far about Lane's.
being oblivious.
Yeah.
She is not this person until she is.
So, or she is this person and she just hit it? I don't.
I think it's more to do with it's fleshing out her character, and they realize that she needs more to her friendship than just music. Like she needs more depth.
And you know that the girl best friend is always going to be basically an FBI agent.
It's literally a meme. Like it's
Yeah.
the CIA needs to hire the girl best friend. Like that's you need to find someone. Done.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to find them. We're going to know who their family is. We're going to
Oh,
know.
you're Liam Neeson in Taken. It's like I have a set of skills, and it makes me a nightmare for people. It's yeah.
Yeah. And she does really well with this. So she finds out the music that he enjoys, which is Nick Drake, Liz Phair, and Sugarplastics. Now, I wanted to ask you first of all about this. So we've said before that the Dean that we don't like is not Intro Dean because Intro Dean, this one still, seems to have a lot in common with Rory. And these music choices speak to that because they're all really eclectic and niche music choices. It seems like he would have something in common with Rory with these things.
It's music that is the groundwork for like later musicians that it's part of their repertoire of their musical education. It's almost in line with Lane
Yeah.
in that sense.
Right, which means he would have a lot in common. So Nick Drake, from what I read about him, was an English singer-songwriter known for acoustic guitar, and the speculation is that Dean would have learned about him through a VW commercial because we know that Dean is a car fanatic, so it would make sense that he found him on this commercial and then became obsessed.
Out of all of the references, I think this one is a little bit early for Dean because he was more famous in the 70s.
Mhm.
So
They're all
it's
pretty early.
yeah, it's 80s and 90s, it's early 90s. So it predates Rory and Dean by a little bit. But in the 1970s, it's acoustic guitar and trippy lyrics. It's kind of I don't envision Dean reaching that far back.
Now,
But
Lane, we would envision.
oh yeah,
Yeah. But it shows that he has really interesting taste in music. Then we have,
I did have a conspiracy about all of these.
okay, well, why don't we go through them all and then we'll get to our conspiracy? How about that? So then we have Liz Phair. She was born in Connecticut and grew up in Chicago. So we've got some,
Well, there's a conspiracy
location.
right there. It's of itself.
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, it's Connecticut and Chicago. It's where Dean is from,
Yeah.
and
And
yeah.
where Rory is from. This she was mostly popular in the 90s. The song that I think I know most from Liz Phair is Why Can't I Breathe. I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
if
No,
that's the most popular song,
I wrote
but
that down because that's the only song I thought you would know.
I
Because
definitely know that song.
yeah,
100%. I've sang that song many, many times in my life. So that, and then we have the Sugarplastics. They are an alt rock band from 1989. So still a little bit early for Dean, but again, it's showing that he has a taste in music like Rory. So we have a conspiracy theory.
yes. So all three of them could possibly have either a song title or a lyric related to this episode.
Oh boy, this sounds like we're going down a rabbit hole.
So for Nick Drake,
Yeah.
he has a song called "Place to Be,"
Okay.
which is the place to be is the market where the room where it happened,
So Dosie's Market. Okay.
Dosie's Market. Liz Phair, uh, expletives, but it's uh, fucking run.
Because she ran out of the store with the
Well,
cornstarch.
so it's more of the lyrics of that is one of the lyrics is "I want a boyfriend," and so that's very much Rory's thought process in this. She wants a boyfriend, and
Gotcha.
it's running on a loop in her head. It's just I want Dean. I want Dean on as a boyfriend. Boyfriend Dean. Boy, yeah, it's going round and round and round we go.
Okay.
And then ironically for the Sugar Plastics, because I couldn't find one that really fit, but they have a song title, which is why this does not really fit. I kissed an ugly girl.
Oh, she's not ugly.
Well, that's yeah.
No, she's not. But maybe she feels that way about herself.
Well, that's kind of where I was going. In an ironic, she's thinking no one is a harsher critic than themselves. Like
right.
you're down on yourself more than anyone else.
And why did we decide to go down this road of
I was just
conspiracies?
I was listening to all the songs and I was trying to find
A reason why
sense of it.
those,
Yeah.
yeah, those were chosen,
Although Pink Moon comes up later in the episode.
which is the one that's on the VW commercial from Nick
Yes.
Drake. Yeah. So we will talk about that when we get there. I have not seen this commercial. I will make sure to watch it before we talk about that. But yeah. So, I mean, right now, though, they're setting him up as someone who is compatible. We know that he likes older movies. We now know he likes older music. So, I mean, all signs point to compatible.
It's eclectic. He is unique in his own different way that is similar but not the same as Rory and Lorelai in that dynamic.
Right. Why didn't they keep this Dean? I don't understand.
Because of Jess. Like they had to move on to the next thing.
I, we'll get there because I don't know if that's it. But we also learn in this part that he's deathly allergic to walnuts. And I am curious if this has ever come back up in the show that you can remember because I don't remember this ever coming back up. But like with the amount of candy and things that they consume, you would think that that would have been a topic at some point because they eat so much desserts. And as someone who is allergic to nuts, that is impactful.
I'm more surprised that his wife didn't use that against him and take
and
care of
murder him?
Yeah, no, yeah.
I don't think it's that kind of show. I don't know. I just
Hell hath no fury.
So
And she was scorned, so she has every capability of taking it too far.
so in the thriller murder mystery version of Gilmore Girls, she decided to take him out with
Yeah,
a
it's the wife
home baked walnut
in Stars Hollow
dessert.
with walnuts. Yep,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
That's the clue version of that. Yeah.
So somebody needs to do a fanfic movie thriller horror version to see what would have really happened if she had used, I think it was Lindsay, had used the walnuts as a deadly weapon. We also learn that his best friend's name is Todd. Now, I heard this and I was like, I don't know that we've met Todd. I don't know who Todd is.
No, have not met Todd.
I Googled it. You do meet him in the show. Do you know when you meet him?
I have no idea.
He shows up in episode 12 of season 1 and they go on a double date. Lane is on a double date with him. He is a blonde kid and I guess the only word to say is he's not quite intelligent. He just doesn't seem like he's got much going on in there. Kind of makes me think of a surfer kid.
So the precursor to the men that Lane ends up with.
I mean, I didn't think of it that way, but I mean,
So
yeah.
It's the same person. Yeah. It's full circle. It comes all the way back around. So she winds up with Todd, but it's not Todd.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think of it that way, but I guess so. Now, did we learn anything else about Dean in this section that I missed?
Yes, he dated Beth.
Oh, Beth.
the
which
yeah.
we don't like Beth's name. It's so Beth.
Well, it's just it's you have a reason not to like the person, even though the person has not done anything to you directly. Like it's not their fault that they also found Dean attractive and dated him when he lived in Chicago.
I mean, no, but don't we all do this? We all
Oh
find
yeah,
out
no,
about a previous
absolutely,
person.
absolutely.
You're like,
And
ugh.
I hate that guy, or
Yeah.
I hate that person. Yeah,
And
totally.
yeah, there's no, but this does also let us know that Rory is not Dean's first
Yes,
kiss or love, or, well, I mean, it could be first kiss, I suppose, but I doubt it. So it's interesting because it is for Rory. And I think we kind of see that a little bit when we see how this progresses and how Rory handles it versus Dean handles it.
I think that's fair. I think he is. Well, he can't leave the market because he's still working, but I think he does handle it with a little bit more grace than Rory does.
Just a little
A
bit.
little
He
bit.
doesn't shoplift or run away or anything. So
Or just freak out and then can't face the person ever again. Like,
I love how you're saying it like you would be any better.
oh no, absolutely not. I mean, come on. Have you seen Dean? Like, I have eyes. Come on.
I mean, the hair is what does it for me. It's
Yeah.
just, the slick back. But anyway, so yeah, she does a lot of
Reconnaissance.
recognizance.
Reconnaissance.
I can't say it. Reconnaissance on Dean and comes through as the best friend who can kind of let her know, like, hey, you are the one he is talking about. You're the one that he cares about. His best friend is vouching for you. So, like, looks like things are going to go in the right direction here.
And then, meanwhile, in the next scene, you have Luke getting it every which way from Miss Patty, and I think Babette was there,
Yeah.
and just not wanting to put up with the decoration, like just over this whole conversation.
Yeah, he's sick of it. He doesn't want to talk about freaking autumn festival decorations anymore.
Well, he feels like he's the last man standing of I'm going to stand by my principles, and Taylor can go to hell. Like he feels like everyone else is turned on him and he's alone.
I understand that. I think that he feels like he should be able to run his business how he wants and not have to conform to the town, but the town is like, absolutely not. You're a part of this town. You will do the things that the town does. Now, you picked up on a line that was said during this whole situation that you wanted to talk about.
Uh yeah, so he was arguing with Lorelai at this point because she also,
She's sitting there kind of like just zoning out
well,
and
she's
upset
in her own head about the kiss and the
and then not
whole,
being told about the kiss.
yeah. And he's basically comes back with a, this is why the pilgrims came here, is to avoid decorating, which is actually true. And I might be reading into this a little bit,
You probably are,
probably.
but do it. Go for it.
The pilgrims were basically religious crazy people,
Yeah.
and they came to the United States because they weren't allowed to persecute people and make them follow their beliefs.
Okay. So they weren't allowed to make people do the things that they wanted them to do. Like the
Yeah,
town is trying to make Luke do what. Okay.
correct.
I'm trying to
and
follow.
and so they were crazy in that they did not celebrate Christmas. Like they didn't put up decorations. They didn't.
The pilgrims didn't?
No.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. How much of a monster do you have to be to not celebrate Christmas, given what it's become today?
Yeah, I mean, not even in a religious sense. We don't celebrate in a religious sense, but just celebrating the holiday in general.
Or just holidays in general. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be Christmas, Thanksgiving, or
Some kind of holiday,
yeah,
anything.
some kind of celebratory event where they dress in those stupid buckle hats and black and white and just miserable the entire time.
Are we getting to a
Yeah,
point? Yeah,
no, I like that line because I think it's funny that they did come here also to not decorate because they sucked.
because they're boring and they
Yeah,
don't enjoy.
they were terrible
They don't
people.
like fun.
Yeah.
That's what it is. They didn't like fun. It actually made me think though. I think I mentioned it in the last episode that there is a place where you can go and see like how they lived and like how different it was. Plymouth Plantation, which for some reason, if you Google it, it's spelled with an I. I don't know.
Well, there's also the one in Auburn, I think, or somewhere out there that also has like
The reenactment.
the Quaker Village and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I obviously been to the Plymouth one. You might have been to the Auburn one, but in Massachusetts, you can go to these things. You can see how they live and like why they did what they did and like all of that. And as much as we make fun of it, because we're from Massachusetts and we've had to go to these things since we were kids,
Yeah.
It's also really interesting, and it's kinda cool to
Except for
see.
Plymouth Rock, that one still sucks.
It's still yeah,
It's still terrible.
it still sucks. So, after Luke and Lorelai have their little discussion there where he's like, "Are you mad at me? Like, what's going on?" And she's basically like, "I'm in my own little world. I don't even know what's going on, but now I'm worried about you." After that whole situation happens, Rory comes into Luke's to sit with Lorelai.
Yes.
And Lorelai basically pounces on this opportunity to try and get Rory to tell
Oh,
her about the
it's
kiss.
entrapment. She's trying to get her caught up in going, "My mom knows. Crap, my mom knows." And then come clean. She's trying to get Rory to realize that she knows. I know you know, I know you know.
Yeah, and
Type
Rory
and
does not seem to be picking up what she's putting down at
no.
all. So Rory's having a Lane moment, if I can just
Oh yeah, no,
harken back.
it's totally oblivious. And she's caught up in her own little world where she's already Dean's girlfriend. Like and everything she's planning all of these things in her head. Like she's off in a world.
Now, does that make sense to you though? Like, wouldn't you think that Rory would have this as top of mind because she's been so afraid of her mom finding out that she would be very like anytime she's with Lorelai, she'd be hyper aware that like
I
she could find out. This is a small town.
I think the teenage girl brain takes over there and just she's been talking to her best friend and she's in that moment in her mind. She's not present.
Wow. I mean, it's an unfortunate moment. But so first, Lorelai says to her, what do you want to talk about? Like, what are we gonna discuss? Like trying to get her to be like, oh, I gotta tell you something, but this doesn't work. Rory says about, did you see the article about the polar ice caps melting? Which, by the way, I
Still happening. It's
still
mostly
relevant.
melted now.
Yeah, Lorelai saying it's boring. I don't know about boring. It's kind of scary, kind of worrying.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where it's going to stop being funny when we all have to learn how to swim.
Yeah. So not something I would probably make fun of, but I can understand that that is not what she wanted to talk about. That is next topic, please. That's not something she wanted to talk about. So then she decides that she's going to have a whole discussion about General Hospital.
Yeah, because of course that's an appropriate reference for a teenager. Like who watches General Hospital?
Well, first of all, how is Lorelai watching General Hospital? I mean, Rory accurately says to her, like, when do you have the time? Because General Hospital, from my understanding, granted, I've never seen it, but I do know that soap operas are on like middle of the day. Like, Lorelai's at work. Where is she watching this?
I'm betting you that there's some kind of TV in like the lobby or somewhere at the inn that is just running daytime television because what else are you gonna do? Like you can't have Drella in every episode because she's gone.
Fair.
And
It
so
just seems like for an inn like that, they would have something more classy than General Hospital.
you put on whatever someone wants to watch. If the person that is the guest says, I want to watch General Hospital. Also, daytime television, is there anything better? Like daytime television is the
Have
worst.
you watched soap operas?
Daytime television is awful.
They're trashy.
So is daytime television. Like it's
I
yeah.
mean, fair, but
Jerry Springer's better? No.
no. Well,
Exactly.
no. I mean, obviously not. But I would just think that they'd be, I don't know, having on like some classical music concert or something. I don't know.
That doesn't exist on daytime
I
television.
don't know. I don't watch a lot of daytime television because I'm not home during the day.
Yeah, the last time I watched daytime television, I was sick and I was 12.
Yeah, and I watched The Price is Right because that's what you watch in daytime television. Done. But so she decides to use this opportunity to use General Hospital as a way to try and get Rory to talk about the kiss. And I found it interesting that she actually quoted the plot of an actual General Hospital like plot point. Like the whole thing true actually happened in General Hospital, which I found really interesting because I thought when I was listening to the episode that Lorelai was, making up this thing that would be plausible in the realm of General Hospital or in soap operas in general because she knows that Rory hasn't seen it.
So
So
that
she
whole
just
thing happened?
it happened. Yeah,
Oh
it
god.
happened. Like somebody went and like looked it all up and like yes, this whole thing actually happened. There's actually speculation that Luke and Lorelai were modeled after Lucas and Laura in General Hospital. So, I mean, I
So
don't know.
Lucky's parents then. Because
Yes.
I did look that up.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's true, but there's speculation that that's the case. Um, but I found it super interesting that it was a real plot point. Now, granted, this plot point did not work on Rory. She listened to the whole thing, even with Lorelai inflecting. What do you think about the kiss? And nothing. Whole lot of nothing. Reminded me of talking to you. Just nada.
Thanks, dear.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you. One interesting point about General Hospital is that it's the oldest running soap opera ever.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Is it still going today?
I think so.
I don't know who's watching soap operas. Who
It
has
is
cable?
so long running that they had a kid born on the show in like 1985 that they then waited 10 years to hire a 10-year-old actor to play this kid before you see him again from baby to 10. And then he's now like a 30-year-old.
Is he still in it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Lucky is now an adult actor on the show.
Oh, that's amazing. Love that for him. But it's crazy that this plot point didn't work on Rory, is what I want to say, because I just feel she
Oblivious, dear. She's oblivious.
this is fair.
It's to the point where she's so oblivious, she says one of my favorite lines from the show.
Go on.
So she says, Lorelai says, "What do you think?" And Roy responds back with, "Well, I think that they're an actor paid to play a role, and it's commendable that they fulfilled their obligation as an actor on a show paid to play a role."
That was also paid to kiss another actor
Yeah,
on said show, and they
exactly.
fulfilled their obligation.
It's the inception before inception. It's
Yeah,
the
very meta,
yeah.
which I very much appreciate, but it was one of those moments of like, "Come on, how do you not see it?" But, it's fine. Um, so this conversation wraps up and and Rory is like, "I gotta go back to Lane," and Lorelai is very frustrated that nothing got resolved.
Well, yeah, it's she is wanting to get back to her conversation with Lane. She wants to go right back to like
Talking about Dean.
yeah, she's right in talking about the boy.
Which, I mean, we've all been there. We've all had this moment. So Rory leaves to go see Lane and talk about Dean and all the things. And Luke comes back over and he's like, "I'm not going to say you look concerned." And she's like, "And I'm not going to say that you would look really good dressed as one of those guys from the Crucible." And now we're from Massachusetts. So I immediately knew what this play was.
It's required reading in all of Massachusetts middle school. Like it's that play is I think the default play over Romeo and Juliet. Like
I think
it's
so.
yeah.
Like I don't know anybody that hasn't read it. Now, I will say though, watching the show if you're not from Massachusetts, I would imagine that just based on context clues, you would think that that was a play about the Pilgrims, which it is not.
It's not about the Pilgrims.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify in case anyone was confused. That is a play from the Salem witch trials about the Puritans.
Which is still basically they're
similar.
They're overlap there because it's like 30 years after they got here. So it's the Pilgrims are the Puritans, and
they wear very similar
yeah,
clothing, which
it's
is
that
what
whole
she
thing.
was getting at. But it was just funny to me because I'm like, they couldn't have found something that was like literally pilgrims because we're talking about pilgrims the whole episode, and then we switch over to the Salem witch trials over here. But
She could have said something like the buckle hat or buckle shoes or so,
right,
yeah.
she could have said something else. Now, do you think Luke would look good in an outfit from the Crucible?
No, obviously those outfits are terrible.
Now, are there AIs out there that I can like go in and put like Luke Danes in Crucible
Yeah,
outfit?
absolutely.
I need to do this because I need to know like if he would look
You'd be
good.
better served to say Luke Dane's pilgrim outfit, but yeah.
Well, I mean, she said Crucible, so I need to be screen accurate. Now, I don't know what AIs allow me to do this, but I would like to do that because I need to know. I need to know if he would look good.
The answer is no. No one looks good in that outfit, which is why it stopped being in an outfit.
I mean, I feel like those belts could be pretty attractive. What about the shoes? How about
No,
those?
absolutely,
No, they're like pointy.
absolutely not.
I think they could be becoming. Or the
No.
hat. A nice hat.
Absolutely not.
You don't think a hat would look good on Luke?
No.
I mean, first of all, the backwards baseball hat is his thing.
Not a pilgrim hat. It's not the same.
I feel like we need more proof of this because I would like to see that. She thinks he would look good.
No, she's trying to get him to leave her alone because he's already sick of the conversation about decorating. And she knows this, so she's exploiting his.
I mean, if she wanted to just have him leave her alone, she could have said, I'm not going to say you'd look really good in a turkey costume. So.
No, that's just too far.
Too far?
Yeah,
Too far over the edge? Because I feel like that's something Taylor would love. Fair.
Taylor is the worst person.
He's not really that bad, but we'll get to him when we have more of him because we've only just met him. So let's give him a break.
I love the Crucible reference because it's a great reference.
It's a great reference and it's a great play. I mean,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
And the Salem witch trials are a way better time than Plymouth. Go to Salem.
Yeah,
And
why don't they have a Salem witch trial episode? Because I'd like to talk about that.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that there's one of the victims of the Salem witch trials had one of like the most badass lines ever when he was about to be murdered.
Oh gosh.
He was being crushed to death by rocks as a form of torture to make him confess. And they said, "Do you have anything that you would like to say?" More weight. That's
I mean,
just
it's pretty badass. I'll
it's
give you
great.
that. I'll give you that. Even though we're not talking about the Salem witch trials,
We're getting off
so
the rails.
getting
Okay,
off track.
I'm sorry.
So now Lorelai decides if she's not going to get to hear it from Rory, she's going to go stalk Dean because that is the normal mother thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not at all what Emily Gilmore would do.
Let's not have those comparisons.
She's comparing herself to Emily Gilmore a lot in this
Not
episode.
happily.
No, but then she inadvertently becomes her mother
You
by
think
doing.
by stalking?
Do you think Emily Gilmore wouldn't have found out that way?
She probably would have. But this is not how Lorelai, she does not talk to him. So Lorelai goes to Dosie's Market. She is pretending to be looking at things, just like Rory did when she came in for the cornstarch. They really like to pretend to shop, so that's fun. So she's pretending to shop. She's looking around. She's staring at Dean, and she runs literally into Luke. Which I have to say, this is one of my favorite Luke Lorelai scenes. The contact that they have there, her pushing him out, him holding on to her, like just the playful back and forth, just
Well, it's almost a direct mirroring of Dean and Rory's interaction in the supermarket because he scares the crap out of her.
Mhm.
Uh, Rory gets startled by Dean.
Yeah.
And they're caught off guard, and he's like, "Why are you here?" We ran out of creamer at the diner. Me too. Like, it's not Lorelai's best.
No,
And
but it's such a cute moment. And maybe that's why, because I'm already like primed for this cute moment because they've paralleled. But it's one of the first times I think the show really gives you a kind of look at what they could be like as a couple. And it's adorable. And so she is watching Dean, and Luke's like, "What are you doing? Like, what is going on right now?" And she is like, "Look at that guy. Look at the way he is handling those lemons," which you thought was probably a euphemism.
it's gotta be because it's not about the lemons. It's
A
just
euphemism for what though?
I
Because I
don't.
only have one thought in my mind of holding two.
Well, wow.
I
No, it's just I think it's just a casual disregard for something that should be important to him because it's important to the customer that's buying it. I don't know. It's
I, no. I mean, I feel like that's a stretch, but Luke also feels like that's a stretch, and he's like, "You need help. You need to stop this."
they're
And she's
symbolic lemons.
yeah, and so she's like, "But this Lothario is standing over there and like going after my girl and whatever." And so Lothario is a reference to Don Quixote, and it is a womanizer, a
Yeah.
seducer.
No, it's a I mean, for lack of a better word, it's a
It's a Chad.
yeah, it's literally it's that person that everyone hates at the frat party that tries to have relations with every woman that he can see.
Now, would we classify Dean as a Lothario?
No.
Now, there's some future boyfriends that I might, but this is not it.
Oh
Dean,
no, it's yeah, Logan is the look.
I was, I wasn't gonna say it. I wasn't gonna say it. But yeah, no, Dean doesn't seem to come across that way. I mean, he's laser focused on Rory from what we've learned. So I don't think so. I think Lorelai is projecting here
Oh
because
yeah.
she obviously had some experiences with men when she was Rory's age, and she's worried
I think she's projecting Christopher
on to Dean.
onto Dean,
Yes.
which we will get to in a little bit.
In a minute, because I want to know if that makes sense. But so basically, she says she's going to kill him. And Luke is like, absolutely not. It's double coupon day. You'll take down the town.
Yeah, no, under no circumstances. And this moment is a great moment that showcases why Luke works so well with Lorelai is because he knows when to listen and shut up. He also knows when to be sarcastic and make her feel guide her in the right direction to see why she's wrong.
Yeah, and the way he does it builds her up versus bringing her down, which I just love. Like he makes her the, even like when he's making fun of her, like when they leave the store and they're walking back and they're having a discussion, and we'll go back to the Christopher part in a second, but one of the things Luke says is you like past the need for having another person in this conversation a long time ago, didn't you? And she's like, yeah, past the gelato. And he's like, amazing woman. Like he's making fun of her, but he's also very much complimenting her, and you're seeing that he is very infatuated with
It's almost
her.
like the opposite of mansplaining. Like, he's allowing her to get to where she needs to go by contributing to the conversation minimally, but then she's gonna make the jumps herself and realize that she's being an irrational, crazy person.
Yeah, and he's doing it in a way where you can very much see he admires her,
Yep.
which is adorable, and
And or wants to date her.
you're starting to think that in
No,
this
it's
in
not
this
no,
point.
absolutely. It was clear as day.
It was yeah, I mean, it's
I wasn't starting to think. I was like, "Yep, nope, that's now canon."
and I love it. Like, this is one of my favorite scenes because I love the fact that they showcase that so well, but it's not creepy and it's also doesn't draw away from what's happening. You're not, like, focused on Luke and Lorelai, but, like, you're like, "Oh, okay, all right, we'll come back to this. I'm coming back." So, on that walk, though, they're having this whole discussion of, like, why she needs to maybe not stalk Dean, and she says he looks a lot like Christopher. And we haven't met Christopher in the show yet, but I mean, come on. We've rewatched the show how many times, guys? We know what Christopher looks like.
Twice for me.
And I need to know, do you think he looks like Christopher?
So, I looked at the fan wiki
Okay.
for both Christopher
Okay.
and Dean,
Uh-huh.
and the photos that they used,
Okay.
you could very much see Dean playing a younger Christopher age-wise. Like, you could see that the facial change structure, it's not exact, but you could see how a person could age into that face.
Interesting. I do not see that. I did go back and look at photos. Now, first of all, we do have the actor for young Christopher, and I mean, we can make the argument that he was a terrible acting choice and because he doesn't look like younger Christopher, or we can say that Dean just doesn't look like Christopher. I don't know which way we want to go with that, but he does not look like young Christopher for sure. As for looking like older Christopher, I don't really see it, but they make a lot of references to Lorelai comparing him to Christopher because you've got, I forget if it's the pilot episode or the second episode, but Lorelai says, if you're going to throw your life away for a boy, he better have a motorcycle. So we know that she's comparing him to Christopher there because of the
Well,
motorcycle.
she compares every male character that is a romantic character for herself or Rory against the benchmark that she has, which is Christopher. Like, she does not have a a better reference point.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, if we're going to look at the canon of Gilmore Girls and we want to map the relationships that they have in the show, would you say that Dean is Rory's Christopher?
No.
Okay, who would you say is Rory? Or does she not have one? Is there not a parallel
I
here?
mean, he has not been introduced yet, but
That's okay.
it's definitely the Lothario is Logan.
You think?
It's definitely Christopher Logan. It's rich, entitled, good humored. He's entitled, but he's not gonna hold it over you. Like, he's just, his life is better than yours, and that's not his fault.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Now, I think that, in my opinion, Tristan was originally like kind of set up to be a Christopher character, and the reason that
And
Tristan doesn't stay on the show
thank
is
God.
because he goes to One Tree Hill. So he may have fleshed out more to be like the Logan character. I don't know how that would have played out. But he at this moment is the one that's most like Christopher. I also think that Christopher had, from what Lorelai says, bad boy attributes, which I don't think Dean really carries forward. I can see that they're trying to show like a bad, mysterious side right now, but it just does not play out. Jess has those attributes. So I feel like there's some things sprinkled into all of them. But if I was to map Dean to one of Lorelai's actual boyfriends that we get to see, I would map him to Max.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think it's the first boyfriend that she's had since basically forever, since Christopher. She's allowing herself to get back out there. It's almost like she's starting over and getting her first kiss and all of those things.
Right.
It's very similar to your first boyfriend.
Yeah, and they have the connections are very similar. They're very surface level. They're very like they're obviously very attracted to each other, but like they don't really have neither one of those relationships have that really deep relationship, but both Dean and Max truly care for Lorelai and Rory way more than the reciprocate.
Yeah, it's definitely a more one sided
Yeah.
for the men in those relationships. I will certainly agree to that.
And I don't hate Max. I actually really like Max. Dean, intro Dean, I really like. It just he goes off the rails a little bit there.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think if we had to do the mapping, that's what I would say. So they continue their walk, and basically she's trying to figure out why Rory is into this, whatever. And then Luke basically says, like, she's your daughter, essentially. And she's like, you're going to quote Freud to me?
Yeah, I think that's just another great reference. This show is so good at the references because it's Sigmund Freud is the father of modern psychology. Like he is the person that started analyzing why people think the way that they think.
Yeah. Now, if you Googled into this, they're going to tell you that this is a reference to the Oedipus complex, which the Oedipus complex, and what's confusing to me is what I remember from the play, the Oedipus play, is that he had a thing for his mother. But
Yeah,
according to Google, if I look up the Oedipus complex, it says that it's the having a love affair for the same sex parent. So I don't know what the actual Oedipus complex is. If anybody wants to message me and let me know, because I was a little bit confused by that. But the reference that people are saying they're making is that Rory has the same love interests as Lorelai and is showcasing the same habits.
well, I also think it's partly you wind up with someone that, for better or worse, is your
Like your parent.
like your parents,
Oof.
and a lot of the times that's unavoidable. Like
It yeah.
it's they're not going to look like your parents. They're not going to,
That would be weird.
yeah,
That would be
but
weird.
they will have.
If he looked like Christopher, that's looking like your parents. That's weird. That's just weird.
But I think it has more to do with just people have a lot of commonality, and you're going to find those commonalities in any person. So it's not that they're like your parent; it's that people are very similar.
Well, and you also pick what you're comfortable with. You
Yep.
you are used to certain ways of speaking and certain like habits, all that type of stuff. And so you're more likely to pick someone that has the things that you're comfortable with already. You're not going to pick someone that's totally like in another friggin' universe when it comes to the way they act or speak or, whatever, because it's not comfortable and people
Right.
don't like to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think there's a familiarity with certain characteristics, whether it's being a more introverted person or like those things feed on themselves. Like that, you're gonna find someone that you can just get along with.
Yeah, and Lorelai and Rory are like best friends, so it would make sense that they're gonna follow very similar patterns. So we end up getting back to the kitchen at Lorelai's house, and Lorelai and Rory are there, and basically Lorelai spits it out that she knows.
She can't wait anymore. It's killing her. It's eating her alive.
Yeah, and it just kind of like flies out of her mouth. And Rory is shocked. It seems like she didn't expect this to happen, which is kind of just
But then
girl, like
but then she says, how'd you find out? Mrs. Kim. And she's like, oh, obviously, because she overheard them talking about
right,
it.
like obviously
This
this
is this is the difference between male selective hearing and then mother universal hearing of all things at all times. Like moms know everything. Like
yeah, and you
that's a
shouldn't
fundamental
expect
truth.
otherwise.
Yeah, it's a fundamental truth.
Yeah. So basically, they're talking about it, and she says, I mean, by the time this got to Miss Patty's, this would be a scene from 9.5 Weeks. And I'd never heard of this before
I have an embarrassing confession to make about this.
about 9.5 weeks.
Yes, I
Okay.
thought it was a different movie.
Oh, no. Here we go.
I thought it was 2 weeks notice with Hugh Grant and Sandra Bullock.
Why?
I don't know. I heard weeks and I wasn't really paying attention. And
Those are
it's
not the same.
horrifyingly different movie. I was like, oh, Miss Patty, it's just yeah, a rom-com lighthearted movie. No, it's not.
No,
It's not that.
it's not. It is
Not
not.
that.
9.5 Weeks is a 1986 erotic film with Kim Basinger and Mickey O'Rourke, and the couple meets for the first time in a grocery store. So I think that's probably why they're referencing
And
it
it's
here.
not a
But it's
healthy
erotic.
it's not a healthy relationship.
No, I watched a little like clip thing and I was like, "Woo! All right."
You're a braver person. I just read the synopsis like, yeah, no,
Oh, I just wanted to know what I wanted to know, like, was the word erotic used lightly? It wasn't. If you wanted to know, the tiny clip that I watched, no, wasn't used lightly. That is erotic. That is something else. So they, I guess, believe that Miss Patty was going to add some color into that kiss if it got around to her.
Oh yeah, like that is more in line with her character. It's a very serious reference for the WB. I'm surprised that they got that one in there.
I don't think anyone knew what it was. They probably thought it was 2.5 weeks notice.
No, this was before the internet, or just like right around the like.
This was 2000.
Yeah,
So we had computers. Like,
but
okay.
it wasn't like Google wasn't
No,
what
we
it
had
is.
asked Jeeves.
Yeah.
Okay, so, if Jeeves knew about it, then it would have shown up. If Jeeves didn't know about it, then it didn't show
Yeah.
up.
So yeah, that would have been a who's Googling that?
Oh, I wouldn't have Googled that. I wouldn't have thought to Google it. But anyway, that's quite I would love to see that movie if you wanna watch it with me. Good times. But then we have the "I'm fine" discussion. So basically, Rory is like, "You are freaked out, you don't like this," and she's like, I'm fine. Do you wanna have some of my food?" "No, I'm fine." Like, "I'm fine."
Can I just say it is such a wonderful change to have the victim of the fine conversation not be the husband. Because that's the only time I've ever seen that, and it's just a universal trope of that's a trap. It's
If a well, I don't know if it's meant to, but I know if a woman ever says, "I'm fine," they're not fine. They're not.
no, sleep in a different room that has a locking door if your wife tells you you're fine or she's fine. A guy, yeah, I'm fine. This actually means they're fine. Like totally speaking as a man, if I say yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm legitimately fine. There's nothing wrong. Life is satisfactory.
Now, I wanted to ask you about this conversation. Do you think that Lorelai is most freaked out about the fact that Rory kissed a boy, or most freaked out about the fact that Rory doesn't feel she can confide in her mother and that she's more like Emily than she realized?
Yes. I so I think the bigger part of it is the not hearing about it from Rory because in her mind that means that she's going to then start making a habit of not sharing things, whether it is more serious boy issues or pregnancy scares or drug use. Like there's a lot of things that escalate from a first kiss and not telling your mom about it.
Sure, but I mean, does she have a right to speak? She didn't tell Rory about Max.
And she also didn't share those things with her parents until she had no other choice.
Well, right. So I'm wondering what it is that's really freaking Lorelai out because I don't necessarily know that what's freaking her out is that Rory got kissed by a boy. Like I mean, maybe she's going down the rabbit hole of like, okay, kiss leads to this thing and that's how I got pregnant type situation. But I think it's more that she's feeling a divide in their relationship, that she's starting to feel like, wait a minute, we were best friends telling each other everything. And now she's hiding things from me. Are we as close as I thought we were? Am I my mother? I think that's more scary to her
I
than
think
Rory
she's
kissing a boy.
fundamentally terrified of being Emily Gilmore,
Which, I mean, I get it. I mean,
which she is a lot like Emily Gilmore in a lot of ways.
oh, oh, that's offensive.
In this episode, she's a
Offensive.
that's not offensive. It's accurate. She is Emily Gilmore in a lot of moments in this show.
Okay, name some
Well,
in
we're
this
getting
episode.
in this episode, inviting Dean over, spying on Dean at the grocery store. Yeah, Emily Gilmore would have walked up and introduced herself and forced him to start talking to her. But she would have started off by going in and getting a lay of the land. She
Wow. So
absolutely
you think Lorelai is a lot like Emily?
in this episode, yeah, she's behaving a lot Emily or a lot like Emily.
Ooh, don't like that.
Well,
That makes me a little bit
the
uncomfortable.
truth hurts. I think for this, I think she's more freaked out about the realizing that she's not a little girl anymore. It's the she's gonna go off to college soon. Oh my! She's had those moments in other
In
episodes.
Cinnamon's Wake, she had
Yeah,
that moment.
and it's the what am I gonna do with myself after she's gone? Because I can't keep her in Stars Hollow and keep her from going off to college and starting her life. I can't, as a mother, I can't stunt my child
Right.
from that because that's what I want. I have to let her go, let her live. And I think that's the moment she's realizing she's starting to live her life.
Yeah, but I think it's also that she wants to be part of that. Like if she's going to go off and live her life, she wants to still be part of it. She doesn't want her to go off and live her life without her. I
Yeah, she
think
wants to
that's
be able to move to New York City and like be her roommate, which is not a realistic thing. You're not going to be your daughter's roommate. Like you're not.
I think that's the hope though. I think that's what she aimed for this whole time. That's why they were best friends because she didn't want her daughter to look at her as her mother, but as her best friend, only as her mother when it needed to happen.
But it's still not going to work. It's still not going to work. She's going to live with Paris over her mother. Like
I don't
that's
that's probably a whole other conversation of like what that says, but we'll get into that another time when Paris is more prominent in the episode, but then we end up going to the store. So Rory and Lorelai are going to Dosie's Market to pick up snacks for movie night. And Rory is like, "Ooh, yeah, you know what? We have food at home, actually. We are good. We do not need to go in there." And she is very uncomfortable, like immediately.
This is an instance of her not handling it very well.
Yeah, and she's not communicating her needs again. She's not saying, "Look, mom, I don't want you to meet Dean right now. I'm not good with that." Like,
Can you meet him next year?
yeah. Now, I was going to ask you, do you have any moments in your life where your parents had to meet a date, relationship, whatever it might be, that was funny to you?
Hmm. I don't know if funny is the right word. Like, it's awkward always.
Awkward is fine.
Always the first time
Awkward
is
is always
awkward.
fine.
I mean, the first time you met my parents, it was awkward, for God's sakes. Like,
The first time
all
I met your parents was awkward because I had already met your parents.
fair.
And they did not know that. I'm like,
And
"Yeah, I've met you 7 years ago."
yeah,
So,
okay. All right. Thank you.
awkward.
That's that would probably be the most uncomfortable introduction to parents that I've ever had.
Yeah, that well,
Well
okay.
done. You've taken the cake.
Woo! I win. For me, it would have to be a non-relationship, but my mom tells the story all the time of there was a person that came to see me from Georgia, and my mom was not privy to a lot of the situation because I was not good at communicating with my mother. It's weird. I might be a little bit like Lorelai, but I was very bad at that. And so I wanted my mom to meet him because I was going to Georgia with him for like a vacation and to get his stuff and things like that. And we were not dating, but it was complicated because it was a potential, it could have been a relationship in the future. I didn't know at the time. And my mom was not happy about this. She did not like that some random man came up from another state and is taking her daughter somewhere where she does not want her to go. This man was scary to her.
Yeah,
And
it's the start of any kind of episode of Dateline, for God's sakes. It's just and then I never saw her again.
yeah, and she was in the awkward position of if she told me she didn't like him, that she knew I would do things out of spite.
Lorelai it. You'd
Yeah,
absolutely go, "Well, Emily, I don't care."
yeah, exactly. So she had to grin and bear it and be nice to this scary man. And it was such a funny moment. She talks about it all the time because it was just that moment of like, this is how terrible my daughter is at communication. I was very bad at it, but it was hilarious. So we've all had those moments. And I think that in this scene, Rory is envisioning what that moment is going to look like when Lorelai officially meets Dean for the first time, especially meeting Dean as Rory's boyfriend.
It's one of those things where your mom has all of the dirt.
All the
She has
stories, all the everything.
well, she says, "No childhood stories, no" she goes down a list, like,
Yeah, so she says no James Dean jokes. So I think that that has to be a reference to one, the leather jacket, the fact that maybe the last name is Dean and the first name is Dean. Like I don't know if there's a
no, it's
reference
it's
there.
the it's the prototypical bad boy. He was the bad boy. Like,
Yeah,
he
he
still
had a
is the
motorcycle. Like he had all the things that Lorelai's been talking
he
about.
is still, to this day, decades after he's passed, he is the bad boy.
And
If you need an example of a bad that yeah, that's
I gotta say, if I'm picking between James Dean and Dean, I'm picking James Dean. Just letting you know. Like what? I looked it up. I looked it up. I needed to know. No Nancy Walker impressions. So, from what I could tell about this, it looks like this is a reference to the Mary Tyler Moore show where she is an overbearing mother.
yep.
So, and it sounds like based on the fact that Rory is saying this, that this might be a bit that Lorelai does because she's bringing it up where Lorelai must do Nancy Walker impressions.
She's either that or she has her moments of intentionally embarrassing Rory in other circumstances, whether it's uh, just people in the town or just like she's the odd person out because Lorelai is closer in age to the people in the town, like Miss Patty
Mm,
and Babette. And, like they're her friends. They're not Rory's peers.
yeah,
There's not that same dynamic. So she gets to play off that and embarrass her daughter because
that could
those are
be.
the stories that they want to hear.
Yeah, that could be fair. I was just picturing that she has some kind of a bit that she does because we know Lorelai loves bits. And then no father with a shotgun stairs. So I'm assuming that those were the stairs that Lorelai has already given Dean while she was in with Luke.
Yeah, very very much. It's the trope of the dad meeting the boy for the first time, loading guns on the dining room table, saying you're going to treat her right. right?
Mm.
Like, I don't have
While I clean my gun.
yeah, I the curfew is 9:30. 9:31 I walk out the door with this,
Right.
is the implicate like, it's not a subtle
No.
it's not it's a crime.
Yeah. Now, before we close this out, I had a few questions. One would be, do you think Dean saw him stalk? Do you think Dean saw her stalk him earlier? So he puts together who she is because Dosie's Market is not big. And I'm pretty sure he already probably knows who Lorelai is because it's a small town. So he's likely to already know who Rory's mother is. It's unlikely he doesn't.
He's seen them together around town at Luke's or
Yeah,
somewhere.
he
There's no
stalks her. We've already established
yeah.
that he has stalked Rory plenty. So I'm just one, he already knows who she is likely. And two, that market is tiny and she was not subtle. So do we think that Dean saw that and like just is being
Well
really gentlemanly by not bringing it up
well,
or
in our next episode of the podcast, we're gonna talk about he definitely noticed.
you think so?
Everyone has that feeling of someone is watching me, like the hair on the back of
Oh,
your head stands up, the back of your neck stands up, and you get that why am I being watched feeling.
yeah. So I feel like he is very aware of the situation. And I feel like Lorelai also knows that. And she's choosing to forge ahead anyway, which is just crazy to me.
We
But
missed a few references, and I will not stand for it.
oh my. All right.
Well, when they say we have food at home, like, what are you talking about? We don't have food at home. I refuse to watch Willy Wonka without
Oh,
junk
that's fair.
food.
See, I pushed Willy Wonka a little bit further down
Uh,
because they talk because it's on the TV. But yeah, let's talk about it.
so she's talking about Willy Wonka and Chocolate Factory.
The Gene Wilder version.
The only version worth watching. There's no
You didn't like the Johnny Depp version?
God. It's not.
You didn't see it.
I
There's no
did.
way.
It's not. It's not as good as Gene
What about
Wilder.
Timothy Chalamet?
No, there's
I
Gene,
haven't seen the Chalamet version. I will
there's
say.
Gene Wilder, and I will not accept any other versions. I
I
just
I
will not.
enjoyed the Johnny Depp version,
No,
not as much as Gene Wilder, but I did enjoy it. I have not seen Chalamet, so I
no,
can't
it's
state.
Gene Wilder. It's that is the only answer. I don't.
Oh, you're gonna
I
die on
don't.
this hill?
I will die on that hill. I don't stand for remakes of classic movies that don't make the movie different or better. Like adding something.
The Johnny Depp one made it different.
No, it didn't.
It did make it different. I'm not saying it made it better. It did make it different.
Uh, I agree to disagree. I'm not going to say it. She says I'll be cool like Shaft.
Yep.
And then Chi-Town.
So Shaft was a detective from a 1970s
Yeah, I'm just talking about Shaft.
movie and also a book. Also was played by Samuel L. Jackson in a movie, I believe.
Yeah.
But super cool, like suave.
Yeah,
like
he's a private eye detective that is just he's Shaft.
yeah, he's
awesome.
Shaft. He's Shaft. Yeah. I don't know if that's like a common thing though for people that are not old like us. So I just wanted to make sure we said what it was. And then what was the last one you said we missed?
Chi-Town.
Okay. So Chi-Town is just Chicago. I don't know why Rory doesn't want her to say that. Like I like is it offensive?
No, I
don't
think it's just not a cool way to say Chicago.
is it not?
Chi-Town.
Yeah,
It's
got a ring
just,
to it. No?
no,
No.
just say Chicago like an adult.
Do people say Chi-Town still?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't
They
not from
shouldn't.
Chicago.
It should just Chicago. It's not hard to say.
Oh, the Windy City?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So is that all of them? Did we catch them all?
I
catch
think so.
them
I'm
all?
going down the list. Yep. We're good.
Oh,
We
okay.
caught up.
I'm glad. Okay. Well, so what I do need to say is if you guys are listening to this and you're enjoying this and you listen to our interview 2 weeks back, I think now, you need to make sure you're following us and you need to make sure that you leave reviews, share all of those things because we are planning on doing another interview after we finish doing the recap of this episode, Kiss and Tell. We are hoping to have another interview. I'm not going to spoil who it is because I'm
Someone
always
else
afraid.
related to the show, and I don't know how you have the pull that you do to get these people on the podcast.
But if you enjoy those, we are very, very small. So in order for us to get more and more people on the show, we need to have reviews to show that people are listening and they like it. And we need to have people sharing it, linking it so that we can share it on our socials so people can see that. Because otherwise, I don't think people are going to, want to be on the show because we're so small. But we are lucky enough to have somebody else coming on. I'm not going to jinx it by saying who it is and then something bad happens and then the interview doesn't come out. I'm not going to do that. But make sure that you do that. So share us all around, tag us. We can share it on our social medias, get some reviews in there so that we can tell people, hey, you really want to be on the show. If you want more interviews, please do that. But Make sure that you're following. That will be in it won't be next week, it'll probably be the week
2
after.
weeks, 3 weeks? 2 weeks.
I think it's 2 weeks because we're in the second recap episode.
Yep.
So, yeah, it should be 2 weeks. So, look for that. I'm super excited. I think I might pass out. Cannot wait. But thank you guys so much for listening, as always.
Thank you all for listening.